Shalom. So today we're going to talk about the first month of each year, right? So let's open with the book of Exodus, chapter 12, and we're going to start at verse 1. It says, "And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you." So here the Most High is reteaching the Israelites the actual calendar, right? Now, let's go to the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 43, and we're going to read from verse 6 to get some understanding of the moon, its function, right? This is Ecclesiasticus 43 and verse 6. It says, He made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of times. Now, the question is, what times does the moon declare? Nights, weeks as in seventh, right? And month. So the word month comes from the word moon. That's where the entire concept came from, right? It says, for a declaration of times and a sign of the world. A sign meaning it's visible. A sign can be audible or visible, right? The moon is visible. It says, verse 7, from the moon is the sign of feast. This is the key point that we want. From the moon is a sign of feast. Translating that into English, the moon determines the holy days. And that's what the feasts are. Now let's go to Leviticus chapter 23 and get some understanding of feasts, because we need to understand these words. We need to have concrete understanding of these words so we can put them into practicality, right? So let's go to the book of Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 1. It says, And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them concerning the feast of Yahweh. Mark that word, feast, because we're going to come back to it. It says, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feasts. So everything we read down in this chapter, it's talking about the feast. Now let's get one, for example. Verse 3, it says, 6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest. Hold on. So if the feasts are according to the moon, the Sabbath is a feast, and the feasts are according to the moon. So the Sabbath is determined by what? The moon, right? No, it says, no, let's deal with the actual word feast to get some more understanding. Let's go to the book of Genesis, chapter 1 and verse 14. It says, and God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven. Now the question is, because we have to put knowledge into practicality, what lights do you witness or experience when you look into the heavens? The sun, the moon, and the constellations, right? So those are the lights that we see. Now let's get some of the functions. It says, to divide the day from the night. The question is, which of these three lights carries the function to divide the day from the night, or divide light from dark? Which one of these three lights carry that function? Is the sun, right? So when it says down here to divide the day from the night, it's going back to the same object in verse 4 and 5 when it says to divide the light from the dark. It's not two different objects in the heavens dividing light from dark or day from night. It's one object. It's the same thing, right? So that's also for people who believe in the concept that the sun was created on the fourth day. So if you believe that a day is like 1,000 years or 100 years, if you believe in that concept, you're saying that let's read verse 11 for a moment. It says, and God said, let the earth bring forth grass, and the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth, and it was so, right? And the evening and the morning were the third day. So you're saying that there were trees producing fruits for 3,000 years or 300 years, whichever way you measure it. Are you saying they did that without what you call today photosynthesis? Without getting all that energy from the sunshine? You actually believe in that? Anyway, let's get back to it. It says, verse 14, and God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night. Which light divides day from night? The sun. The sun is what breaks down each morning, right? It says, and let them be for signs. So the sun is going to have its own sign. The moon has its own sign. The constellations, their own sign, right? And for season. Now, this is the word that we want. Season is the same word you just read in Leviticus 23 when it says feast. This goes into the Hebrew word moedim. So moedim is the same word for season and is the same word for feast. So what you're reading here when it says, and let them be for signs and for seasons, let them be for signs and for feast, just as it said in Ecclesiasticus 43, the moon determines the holy days. The feasts and the holy days are the same thing. It says, and for days. Now the question is, which of the three lights determine the day? The day, not the night. Which of the three lights determines the day? The sun. The sun breaks down each day, right? Now it says, and years. Now again, which of the lights in the heaven determine the years? The circuit of the year, the sun. So once you understand the different lights and their individual functions, then you can put them together and understand the heavenly calendar. It's just like, for example, when you're learning to read a clock, you have an hour hand, a minute hand, a second hand. You learn the function of the hour hand, it determines the hour. The function of the minute hand, it determines the minute. The function of the second hand, it determines the seconds. Then you put all three together to work as one entity. The sun, the moon, and the constellations, you learn the functions separately, then you merge them together and you get the entire calendar of the years, the months, the days. Now, within the period of a year, how many months are there? Or how many moons are there? Let's go to the book of 1 Kings chapter 4 and verse 7. It says, and Solomon had 12 officers over all Israel, which provided victuals for the king and his household. Each man his month in a year made provision. How many? 12. So there are 12 months in each year, right? This is the book of 1 Chronicles chapter 27 and verse 1. It says, now the children of Israel after their number, how many? 12. To wit, the chief fathers and captains of thousands and hundreds, and their officers that served the king in any matter of the courses, which came in and went out month by month throughout all the months of the year of every course, were 24,000. How many tribes? 12 tribes. So there are 12 months in a year. Now listen to what I said. There are 12 months in a year. There are 12 months in the period of a year, but 12 months do not make a year. So people who go by the lunar calendar solely, that's incorrect, because it does not make a year. It's just like, for example, if I have 145 mangoes, right? I can divide them into 12 sets of 12. So guess what? That's going to make 144, but there's going to be one remainder. So there are 12 sets of 12 in 145, but 12 sets of 12 does not make 145. See the difference? There are 12 moons in the circuit of a year, But 12 moons do not complete a year. The sun does that. Now, how does this work? Again, knowledge has to be what? Practical. The sun spent 3 days crossing the what you call the equator, the center of the sky, right? Now, once it crosses there, you have to wait until the new moon that comes. So the sun already crossed from the 19th of March, the 20th of March, the 21st of March, right? But you had to wait until the new moon comes. So tomorrow, the 12th of April, is going to be the Rosh Chodesh. It's going to be the first month of the year. This is what we just read in Exodus chapter 12. It shall be the beginning of months. So what? You look for when the sun crosses the equator, the new moon that follows. And this is why you see, this is also the problem with the Jesuit astronomers, because they put the truth before our eyes. All they did was what? What did Daniel 7:25 said they would do? Change narratives. It says they would think to change times and laws. So they put everything on the Gregorian calendar, but they just change the narrative. So even though the truth is there, you cannot see it. So yes, the sun had already crossed into the northern hemisphere where we are, right? But we had to wait on this new moon that's coming. Now, tomorrow is going to be the first month of the year, right? No, the people now who follow the Gregorian calendar, this is the problem I have with them. There is no month on the Gregorian calendar that begins on the 21st of March. So if you're going by the Gregorian calendar, stick to what you believe in, because we're going to hold you accountable for it. The months on the Gregorian calendar are January, February, March, April, May, and so forth, right? So if the sun crosses into the hemisphere and by the 21st of March, you know when it's going to be the first day of your new moon? It's going to be the 1st of April every year. Because you have to use the new moon that follow. You cannot say, oh, the 21st of March is the new year. It's the first month. There's no month between the 21st of March to the 21st of April. There's no month there. You need to be held accountable for your beliefs that you hold. We have to hold you accountable to it. So once you go by the Gregorian calendar, the first day of your first month of the year is April 1st. Now let's get back to the solar lunar calendar, right? So we're gonna, like I said, knowledge is practical. So we're gonna go through a practical exercise that you can put an image to, right? So tomorrow is gonna be the first moon, the 12th of April, right? Then you go through each month, and the new moon that comes there is gonna be the first month, the second month, the third month, and so forth and so on, right? No. The 12th month, the sun is going to cross the equator there. But like I said, you have to wait until the next new moon, because there are 12 moons in each year. So even though the sun is going to cross the equator by 19, 20, and the 21st of March, guess what? You still have to wait until the first new moon on the April 1st, 2026, before we can do what? Start our new year count again. So you can see the practicality of how 12 moons operate in 1 year. So no, 12 moons do not make a year, but 12 moons are within a year. Just like, for example, the same concept with weeks on the Gregorian calendar. A lot of you have the concept that 4 weeks make a month. No, there are 4 weeks in a month, but 4 weeks do not make a month. That's 28 days. How many days are in January? How many days are in February? Well, February you might get away with because of the concept. But 4 weeks do not make a month. However, 4 weeks is in a month. Likewise, 12 months do not make a year, but 12 months are in a year. The knowledge has to be practical. We go by the solar lunar calendar, and we go by the heavens. The spirit of understanding governs the heavens. The spirit of wisdom governs the earth. Be mindful of who you take counsels from when it comes on to certain things regarding scriptures, because like I said, all the priests, they had agricultural lands in the 12 tribes. They were all into agriculture, so they would have the spirit of understanding to understand what? The agricultural cycle, the annual cycle each year. So we go by the solar lunar calendar, we go by what the heavens testify of, and that's our practical knowledge. If you're going by, if you believe in the Gregorian calendrical system, then you are to be held accountable to that belief. Some people are only teaching out of their own zeal. It was not ordained, it was their own zeal. I hope this gives some understanding of how the new moon each year operates, right? And as you know, the new moon every month begins on what? The seventh day. How do you know? Because that is the only day that is distinctive of all the 7 days. It's only the seventh day. So you can say, yes, that's it. You cannot tell the difference between the other 6 days. And again, for people who follow the Gregorian calendar, guess what? Can you look at Venus and say, yes, today is the 6th day of the week? Can you look at Jupiter and say, yes, today is the 5th day of the week? Can you look at what Mercury and say today is the 4th day of the week? Can you look at Mars and say today is the 3rd day of the week? No, you can't. It's only the moon that distinctive. It's only the moon that declares the 7th day. So every year begins with the 7th day. Every month begins with the 7th day, because it is a worship day. You start your month with a worship day, then you work 6 days, then you keep a Sabbath. This is why Leviticus 23 says what? These are my feasts. What was the first one? The Sabbath of rest. That is determined by the what? By the moon. So I hope this gives some clarity. This is where I say Shalom.